The morning sun rose over New Sol like any other day. The artificial atmosphere created a perfect blue sky above the colony's glass domes. Inside the largest dome, Administrator Kang Dai-ho walked through the busy streets. People moved around, him with purpose. Children played in the parks while their parents worked in the nearby buildings. New Sol was humanity's pride in this part of space. 2.5 million people called this place home. They had farms that grew food for 3 other colonies. The mines deep underground pulled rare metals from the planet's core. Scientists in the research centers worked on new technologies that would help all of humanity. Dai-ho stopped at a small coffee shop and bought his usual morning drink. The owner, an old woman named Mrs. Han, smiled at him. She had lived on New Sol for 20 years. Her family had been among the first settlers to arrive. "Another busy day ahead, Administrator?" she asked while handing him the hot cup. "Always," Dai-ho replied with a tired smile. "The colony never sleeps." He was right. New Sol worked around the clock. The factories produced goods that ships carried to Earth and other human worlds. The medical centers treated patients from across the sector. The schools taught children who would one day become the next generation of explorers and builders. In the defense center, Lee So-ra watched the screens that showed empty space around their world. She was Dai-ho's daughter, but she had earned her position through hard work and skill. The defense systems were her responsibility. Every day, she checked the sensors and communication arrays that kept the colony safe. So-ra's team consisted of 12 other people. They worked in shifts to make sure someone always watched for danger. Today felt normal. The screen showed nothing but stars and the occasional trade ship passing through their space. "All clear on sectors 1 through 8, reported technician Park Young-min. He was young but good at his job. So-ra trusted him to spot problems before they became serious. "Good," So-ra said. "Keep monitoring. I want to know if even a small asteroid comes our way." She walked to the main communication station. Every few hours, New Sol sent updates to Earth and the other colonies. These messages told everyone that the colony was safe and working well. It was a simple system that had worked for years. The people of New Sol went about their daily lives without worry. In the medical center, Dr. Kim Hae-jin treated patients who came from different worlds. Some were miners with injuries from their dangerous work. Others were sick children whose parents had brought them to New Sol for better care. In the agricultural domes, farmers like Choi Byung-ho tended to crops that would feed millions. The plants grew in perfect conditions. Machines helped with the heavy work, but human hands still did the most important tasks. These people took pride in their work. They knew their food would reach families across human space. The markets were full of activity. Merchant ships arrived daily with goods from Earth and other colonies. Captain Nam Ji-hoon had just docked his cargo vessel. He brought electronics, books, and luxury items that made life better for the colonists. In return, he would take New Sol's products to his next destination. Students in the schools learned about Earth's history and humanity's future among the stars. Teacher Song Mi-young told her class about the early days of space travel. The children listened with wide eyes as she described the first colonies and the brave people who built them. "Remember," she said, "we are all part of something bigger. Every human world depends on the others. We work together to make life better for everyone." The children nodded. Many of them dreamed of becoming pilots or engineers or doctors. They would carry humanity's hopes to new worlds and new discoveries. But unknown to everyone on New Sol, danger was coming. Far away in deep space, a massive fleet moved toward their peaceful world. The Vorthan Dominion had decided that human colonies were in their way. They wanted the resources and the space for themselves. Fleet Commander Tekvar stood on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, 74 other warships followed in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough weapons to destroy a city. Together, they could wipe out entire worlds. The Vorthons looked like humans in some ways, but they were taller and stronger. Their skin was gray, and their eyes were completely black. They had sharp teeth and claws that showed their violent nature. To them, other species were either useful or obstacles to be removed. Thekvar had studied the human colony. He knew about their defenses and their population. The humans had some weapons, but nothing that could stop a fleet this size. The attack would be quick and complete. "How long until we reach the target?" he asked his navigation officer. 2 hours, Fleet Commander, came the reply. Thekvar nodded. Soon, New Sol would be nothing but ash and memory. Back on the colony, Sora was having lunch with her father in his office. They talked about plans to expand the colony's living areas. More, families wanted to move to New Sol, and they needed space for them. The council approved the new housing project, Deho said. "We'll break ground next month." "That's good news," Sora replied. "But we'll need to upgrade the defense grid too. More people means more responsibility." Her father agreed. They had always been careful about security, but growth meant new challenges. Neither of them knew that their biggest challenge was racing toward them through the darkness of space. The afternoon passed normally. People worked, children played, and life continued as it had for years. The colony's routine was comfortable and predictable. Everyone knew their role and did their part to keep New Sol running smoothly. In space, the Vorthon fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They moved forward on regular engines, their ships silent and deadly. Thekvar wanted to get close before the humans detected them. The first warning came at 3:47 in the afternoon, colony time. Technician Park Young-min saw strange readings on his sensors. At first, he thought it might be an equipment problem. The readings showed many large objects moving toward New Sol. "Sora," he called out. "You need to see this." She hurried to his station and looked at the display. Her blood turned cold. Dozens of massive ships were heading straight for the colony. They were still far away, but moving fast. "Sound the alert," she ordered. "Get me a channel to all ships in the area." Alarms began ringing throughout New Sol. People stopped what they were doing and looked around in confusion. Many of them had never heard the emergency alarm before. Sora tried to contact the approaching fleet. Maybe this was some kind of mistake. Perhaps they were lost or needed help. "Unknown vessels. This is New Sol Defense Control. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The reply came quickly and it chilled her to the bone. "Human colony, you are to be removed. Evacuation is not permitted. Your resistance is pointless." Sora's hands shook as she activated every defense system the colony had. She sent emergency messages to Earth and the nearest human military base. But she knew the truth that she couldn't say out loud. Help was too far away. New Sol was alone and death was coming for them all. 3 weeks after New Sol went silent, the colony's final message reached Earth. The signal had traveled across hundreds of light years, carrying with it the last desperate words of a dying world. In the Deep Space Communications Center outside, Geneva technician Lee Dong-woo first received the transmission. His face went white as he watched the recording. Sora's voice was calm but urgent as she described the attacking fleet. The video showed massive alien warships filling the sky above New Sol. Then the signal cut to static as the transmitters were destroyed. Within an hour, the message was on President Park Ji-woo's desk in Seoul. She sat in her private office watching the terrible footage again and again. Each time she saw it, her anger grew stronger. These aliens had murdered millions of innocent people without warning or mercy. Park Ji-woo was not a military person. She had become president by promising peace and cooperation between Earth's nations. But as she watched New Sol's final moments, something cold and hard settled in her chest. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were weak because they chose peace. She called an emergency meeting of the Unified Earth Defense Council. Within 6 hours, the most powerful people on Earth gathered in the secure chamber beneath the government building. The room had been built to survive nuclear war, but today it would plan something much more destructive. Admiral Kim Tae-sung entered the room wearing his full dress uniform. He was a tall, serious man with gray hair and steel blue eyes. For 30 years he had served in Earth's combined fleet. He had fought pirates and protected trade routes, but he had never seen anything like the New Sol massacre. Defense Minister Choi Yun-ha brought thick files containing Earth's most secret military information. She was younger than the others, but everyone respected her sharp mind and iron will. She had spent years preparing for threats that might never come. Today, one of those threats had become real. "Show them everything," President Park Ji-woo ordered. The lights dimmed and holographic displays filled the air above the conference table. Admiral Kim Tae-sung began to speak, his voice steady and cold. "What you are about to see is classified, at the highest level. For 40 years since we first detected alien signals, Earth has been preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready when it did." The first image showed a massive construction facility hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Huge automated factories worked day and night, building warships by the thousands. The ships moved along assembly lines like cars in an old factory, but each one was larger than a city block. "This is Facility Alpha," Admiral Kim Tae-sung continued, "one of 12 hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. Each facility can produce 50 ships per day. They have been working at full capacity for 20 years. The next image showed another shipyard near Saturn's rings, then another near Neptune. The council members stared in amazement as they realized the scope of Earth's secret preparations. "We call it the Lazarus Protocol," Defense Minister Choi Yun-ha explained. "If humanity ever faced extinction, we would rise from the ashes with overwhelming force. Every ship is automated and ready for immediate deployment." President Park Ji-woo stood up, her hands flat on the table. Her voice was quiet but filled with deadly promise. "How many ships do we have?" "As of today, 500,000 warships are ready for combat," Admiral Kim Tae-sung replied. "Another 100,000 will be completed within 6 months." The room fell silent. Even these powerful leaders had not known the full extent of Earth's hidden military might. They had built an armada capable of conquering galaxies, all while appearing to be a peaceful civilization focused on trade and exploration. "The aliens destroyed one of our colonies and murdered our people," the president said. "They think we are weak. They think we will accept this attack and ask for peace. They are wrong." She looked around the table at each face. These men and women controlled the fate of 8 billion humans and countless colonies across space. "I am authorizing the activation of the Lazarus Protocol. We will show these aliens what happens when they attack innocent humans. We will make sure this never happens again." The orders went out immediately. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Oh Min-soo received the activation codes aboard his ship, the UES Vengeance. He had been waiting in the darkness for years, commanding a skeleton crew that maintained the hidden fleet. Now his purpose was clear. "All crews to battle stations," he announced over the communication system. "The Lazarus Protocol is now active. Prepare for immediate deployment." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. Captains who had waited in secret bases suddenly found themselves at the center of humanity's greatest military operation. Many of them had friends or family on New Sol. Their personal loss mixed with their duty to create a focused rage that would fuel the coming war. Captain Bae Soo-jin commanded Strike Wing Alpha from her stealth destroyer, the UES Silent Fury. Her ship was invisible to most sensors and carried weapons that could destroy targets from impossible distances. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life. "All pilots, this is Commander Bae." She spoke into her communication device. "You've seen what they did to our people. Now we show them what Earth's children can do when we're angry." The response from her pilots was immediate and eager. These were not regular military personnel. They were volunteers who had given up normal lives to serve in Earth's secret fleet. They had families and careers they had left behind to prepare for humanity's darkest hour. Engineer Nam Ho-young worked frantically in the weapon development centers hidden throughout Earth's moon. His team had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They had built weapons specifically designed to destroy the ships that had attacked New Sol. "The new plasma cannons are ready," he reported to Admiral Kim Tae-sung. "Each shot can punch through their shields and hull armor. We've also completed the quantum torpedoes that can track targets through their faster-than-light drives." Dr. Shin Yoon-ji had a different kind of preparation. She led Earth's xenobiology program, studying alien species from intercepted communications and recovered debris. She knew how the Vorthons thought, how they fought, and most importantly, how they could be defeated. Their culture values strength above all else, she explained to the military commanders. They attacked New Sol because they thought we were weak. When they see our true strength, their entire command structure will collapse. News of New Sol's destruction spread across Earth within days. The government could not hide such a massive loss of life. People gathered in the streets, some crying, others demanding action. The peaceful world that Earth had become suddenly remembered that it could be dangerous when threatened. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Young people who had planned to become teachers, doctors, and artists instead chose to become soldiers and pilots. They wanted to join the fleet that would avenge their fallen colonists. Park Min-ho was 18 years old and studying engineering at Seoul National University. When he saw the footage from New Sol, he walked out of his classes and went straight to the nearest recruitment center. "I want to serve on the fleet," he told the recruiter. "I want to make sure this never happens again." The recruiter, an old veteran named Sergeant Major Kim Wan-soo, looked at the young man's determined face. He had seen hundreds of volunteers that week, but something about this one impressed him. "It won't be easy," the sergeant warned. "We're not going to space for exploration or trade. We're going to war." "Good," Park Min-ho replied. "They killed our people. They need to pay for it." Across Earth, the same scene repeated millions of times. A peaceful civilization was transforming itself into a war machine driven by grief and righteous anger. The aliens had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for generations. The massive fleet began to gather in the outer solar system. Ships that had been scattered across dozens of hidden bases now moved toward a single assembly point beyond Pluto's orbit. The sight was incredible even to those who had planned it. Admiral Kim Tae-sung stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Seoul's Fury. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Through the massive viewing window, he could see thousands of other ships taking their positions in the growing formation. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving final crew assignments from Earth Command. All ships will be fully staffed within 72 hours. The admiral nodded. Soon they would begin the long journey to Vorthon space. When they arrived, the aliens would learn that attacking innocent humans was the last mistake they would ever make. President Park Ji-woo watched the fleet assembly from Earth through secure communication channels. The sight filled her with both pride and sadness. Humanity had built something magnificent and terrible. She hoped that after this war, they would never need to use such power again. "May God help us all," she whispered, as the largest war fleet in galactic history prepared to bring justice to a distant world. 6 months had passed since New Sol's destruction. In the cold darkness beyond Pluto, the largest war fleet in the galaxy's history finally came together. 500,000 ships stretched across space in perfect formations, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Admiral Kim Tae-sung stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Seoul's Fury. The massive ship was his command center for the entire fleet. Through the enormous windows, he could see ships extending in every direction until they disappeared into the darkness. Some were as small as fighter jets. Others were larger than Earth's biggest cities. "Fleet status report," he ordered his staff. Commander Bae Soo-jin's voice came through the communication system from her stealth destroyer. "Strike Wing Alpha reports all ships ready for combat. We have 50,000 stealth fighters prepared for advanced reconnaissance and target elimination." Captain Oh Min-soo commanded the heavy assault wing from the UES Vengeance. His deep voice filled the bridge. "Heavy assault wing reports 75,000 battleships and cruisers ready for main fleet engagement. All weapon systems are fully operational." The reports continued for an hour as each wing of the massive fleet confirmed their readiness. Engineers, medical teams, supply ships, and support crews all reported that they were prepared for the long journey ahead. Engineer Nam Ho-young had spent the past months retrofitting every ship with new weapons designed specifically to fight Vorthons. His teams had worked around the clock, installing plasma cannons that could burn through alien armor and quantum torpedoes that could track enemies through hyperspace. "Sir," Nam Ho-young reported from the main engineering ship, "all weapon upgrades are complete. Every vessel in the fleet now carries anti-Vorthon technology. Their shields will not protect them from our new firepower. Dr. Shin Yoonji had been equally busy preparing the fleet's crews for what they would face. She had studied every piece of information Earth had collected about Vorthon psychology and military tactics. Her briefings were sent to every ship in the fleet. Remember, her voice echoed through the communication channels. Vorthons respect only strength. They attacked New Sol because they thought we were weak. When we show them our true power, their entire military structure will collapse from within. The human fleet was not just about numbers and weapons. Every person aboard those ships carried the memory of New Sol's innocent victims. They had seen the recordings of families being killed, children running in terror, and entire communities wiped out in minutes. Corporal Park Min-ho had completed his training in record time. The 18-year-old student who had left his university was now a gunner aboard the destroyer UES Retribution. He stood at his battle station, checking his weapons for the 100th time that day. "You ready for this?" asked his squad leader, Sergeant Lee Jae-won. The older man had served in Earth's regular fleet for 10 years before joining the secret armada. "More than ready," Park Min-ho replied, his voice steady. "They killed our people. Now they get to see what happens when humans fight back." Similar conversations happened throughout the fleet. Veterans mixed with new volunteers, all united by their determination to bring justice to the aliens who had committed genocide against innocent colonists. The fleet's departure was scheduled to begin with a final ceremony. Admiral Kim Tae-sung had ordered all ships to make one last stop before beginning their journey to Vorthon space. They would visit the ruins of New Sol. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump to New Sol system," the admiral announced to the entire fleet. "We will pay our respects to the fallen before we seek justice for them." The jump took 6 hours. When the massive fleet emerged from hyperspace near New Sol, even the most experienced officers fell silent. The planet that had once been a thriving human colony was now a ball of cooling glass and radioactive ash. Captain Bae Soo-jin looked down at the dead world from her ship's bridge. She had visited New Sol twice in her career, both times to deliver supplies and personnel. She remembered the busy spaceports, the green agricultural domes, and the happy children playing in the parks. "My God," whispered her navigation officer, Lieutenant Yoon Sang-ho. "There's nothing left. They killed everything." The admiral's voice filled the communication channels, speaking to every person in the fleet. "Look well at what these aliens did to our people. New Sol was a peaceful colony that never threatened anyone. Its people grew food, conducted research, and raised their children in hope for a better future." The silence that followed was broken only by the sounds of ship systems and quiet breathing. 2.5 million people had lived and died on the world below. Now it was nothing but a monument to alien cruelty. "They thought we would accept this," Admiral Kim Tae-sung continued. "They thought we would negotiate or ask for peace. They were wrong. Today we begin the journey that will show the galaxy what happens when innocent humans are murdered." The ceremony began. Each ship in the fleet fired a single beam of energy down toward New Sol's surface. 500,000 lights pierced the darkness, creating patterns across the ruined world that could be seen from orbit. It was both a memorial to the dead and a promise of vengeance to come. The light show lasted for exactly 47 minutes, the same amount of time it had taken the Vorthons to destroy the colony. When it ended, Admiral Kim Tae-sung gave the order that would change galactic history. "All ships set course for Vorthon space, maximum speed. It's time to collect the debt these aliens owe us." The journey would take 3 months even at the fastest hyperspace speeds. During that time, the fleet's crews would continue training and preparing for the battles ahead. They studied Vorthon ship designs, practiced new tactics, and maintained their weapons systems. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji used the travel time to conduct psychological warfare preparation. She had teams creating broadcasts that would be transmitted to Vorthon planets and ships. The messages were designed to break the aliens' will to fight by showing them the overwhelming force approaching their territory. "Fear is their weakness," she explained to the fleet's senior officers during a briefing session. "Vorthons are bullies who prey on those they think are helpless. When they realize they're facing an enemy stronger than themselves, they will panic." Engineer Nam Ho-young continued improving the fleet's weapons during the long journey. His mobile workshops aboard the larger ships produced new ammunition, upgraded targeting systems and experimental devices that could disable Vorthon ships without destroying them. "We want some of them alive for questioning," he told his engineering teams. "But only after they surrender. Anyone who fights gets the full force of our firepower." Captain O Min-soo spent his time reviewing battle plans with the other wing commanders. The human fleet would not fight like the Vorthons expected. Instead of direct assault, they would use speed, stealth, and superior technology to destroy the enemy piece by piece. "We hit their communication networks first," he explained to his officers. "Blind them, confuse them, then destroy their military assets. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late to organize any effective defense." Commander Bae Soo-jin's stealth wing would lead the initial attacks. Her ships were invisible to most sensors and could strike targets without warning. They would eliminate Vorthon patrol fleets and observation posts, clearing the way for the main assault. "Remember, we're not just fighting a war," she told her pilots. "We're teaching the galaxy a lesson. Every alien species will see what happens when humans are pushed too far." The morale throughout the fleet was extraordinary. These were not reluctant soldiers fighting a war they didn't understand. They were volunteers who had joined specifically to avenge New Sol's innocent victims. Every person aboard those ships knew exactly why they were there. News of the fleet's departure had spread throughout human space. Other colonies sent messages of support and offered to provide additional ships and supplies. The massacre at New Sol had united humanity in a way that nothing else had ever done. President Park Ji-woo received daily reports on the fleet's progress. Each update showed that the ships remained in perfect formation and that crew morale stayed high. She knew that when this fleet reached Vorthon space, it would deliver a message that would echo across the galaxy for centuries. "They wanted to see how humans react to genocide," she told her advisors during a private meeting. "Now they'll learn that we react with overwhelming force and absolute determination." The 3-month journey gave everyone time to prepare mentally for what was coming. Veterans told stories of previous battles to help the new volunteers understand combat. Engineers tested every system multiple times. Medical teams prepared for casualties, though they hoped the war would be brief. As the fleet approached Vorthon territory, Admiral Kim Tae-sung called a final meeting of all senior officers. The holographic conference brought together hundreds of commanders from across the massive armada. "In 12 hours, we will begin military operations against the Vorthon Dominion," he announced. "They destroyed one of our colonies and murdered millions of our people. Now they will learn that humanity does not forget and does not forgive unprovoked attacks on innocent civilians." The meeting ended with every officer repeating the same oath. For New Sol, for humanity, no mercy for those who show none. The first Vorthon patrol ship died without ever knowing what killed it. Commander Bae Soo-jin watched from her stealth destroyer as the alien vessel simply stopped moving and began drifting through space. Her quantum torpedo had struck it perfectly, destroying all power systems while leaving the hull intact. "Target eliminated," she reported to Admiral Kim Tae-sung. "No distress signal was transmitted. They never saw us coming." This was how the war began. Not with massive battles or dramatic speeches, but with silent death striking from the darkness. Bae Soo-jin's stealth wing moved through Vorthon space like ghosts, eliminating patrol ships, observation posts, and communication relays. Within the first week, the Vorthons lost contact with 57 military positions. Their commanders assumed it was equipment failure. They sent repair teams to fix what they thought were broken communication arrays. Instead, they found debris fields and empty space. Captain Oh Min-soo led the second wave of attacks. His heavy assault wing targeted Vorthon supply depots and military bases in remote systems. The aliens had scattered their forces across dozens of worlds, thinking it would make them harder to attack. Instead, it made them easier to destroy piece by piece. "Vorthon supply depot Keth 7 is completely destroyed," Oh Min-soo reported after his latest strike. "No survivors. We captured their supply records before destroying the facility." Engineer Nam Ho-young had designed special weapons for this kind of warfare. His new plasma cannons could burn through Vorthon armor like it was made of paper. The quantum torpedoes could track enemy ships even when they tried to escape through hyperspace. The aliens began to realize something was wrong when an entire battle group disappeared near the Kelvin system. 25 warships had been patrolling that area. When their scheduled report time came, there was only silence. Fleet Commander Thekvar, the same alien who had ordered New Sol's destruction, was called to an emergency meeting on the Dominion's capital world. He stood before the High Command, trying to explain losses he didn't understand. "Our ships are being destroyed by an unknown force," he reported. "We have lost contact with over 200 military assets in the past 2 weeks. No enemy vessels have been detected." Supreme Commander Vethrak was not pleased with this report. The tall Vorthon leader had built the Dominion's military through conquest and intimidation. He could not understand how their forces were being eliminated without a trace. "You told us the humans were weak," Vethrak said, his black eyes fixed on Thekvar. "You said destroying their colony would make them submit. Instead, our own forces are disappearing." Thekvar had no good answer. The humans had seemed helpless when he attacked New Sol. Their small defense force had been swept aside in minutes. How could the same species now be striking at Vorthon military targets across multiple star systems? The truth was revealed during the Battle of Proxima Station. A Vorthon early warning post detected strange energy signatures approaching their position. Before they could investigate, Captain Park Jong-soo's destroyer wing emerged from hyperspace and opened fire. The battle lasted only 18 minutes. When it was over, Proxima Station was the expanding cloud of debris. But this time, one Vorthon ship managed to escape and carry word back to the Dominion fleet. "Humans," the surviving pilot reported. "Hundreds of human warships. Their weapons cut through our shields like they weren't there. Their ships are faster and more powerful than anything we've seen." The news spread quickly through Vorthon command structure. The species they had dismissed as weak was striking back with overwhelming force. Panic began to replace confidence in their military meetings. Dr. Shin Yun-ji had predicted this reaction exactly. She began broadcasting psychological warfare messages to Vorthon worlds and ships. The transmissions showed footage of destroyed Vorthon military bases and the massive human fleet moving through their space. "People of the Vorthon Dominion," her recorded voice said in perfect Vorthon language. "Your leaders attacked an innocent human colony and murdered millions of civilians. Now Earth's children have come to collect the debt your military owes us." The broadcast had a devastating effect on Vorthon morale. Their soldiers had been told that humans were primitive and cowardly. Instead, they were facing an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once, striking without warning and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Entire Vorthon colonies began surrendering without resistance. Governor Kelvin of the mining world Erexis sent a message to the approaching human fleet. "We surrender unconditionally. Our colony was not involved in the attack on your people. Please spare our civilian population." Admiral Kim Tae-sung personally replied to such messages. His response was broadcast throughout human and Vorthon space. "Earth does not make war on innocent civilians. Military targets will be destroyed. Military personnel who resist will be killed. Those who surrender will be treated according to galactic law." This message had two effects. It reassured Vorthon civilians that they would not be slaughtered like the people of New Sol. It also made clear to Vorthon military forces that resistance would result in death, while surrender might mean survival. Captain Bae Soo-jin's stealth wing had been particularly effective at psychological warfare. They would destroy one ship in a Vorthon patrol formation and leave the others untouched. The surviving ships would return to base with reports of invisible enemies that could kill without warning. "Fear spreads faster than our ships do," she explained to her pilots. "Every Vorthon soldier now knows that death can come from empty space. They jump at shadows and shoot at sensor ghosts." The human fleet had divided into smaller task forces that struck at targets across 3 star systems. Simultaneously, the Vorthons couldn't tell where the next attack would come from, or how many enemies they were really facing. Lieutenant Yoon Sang-ho had become an expert at hacking Vorthon communication networks. His electronic warfare team intercepted enemy messages and used them to plan the next strikes. They also inserted false information that sent Vorthon forces to the wrong locations. Sir, he reported to Admiral Kim Tae-sung, I've been monitoring enemy communications. Their fleet commanders are arguing with each other. Some want to gather all forces for a final battle. Others want to retreat to their home system and defend. The Admiral smiled coldly. Perfect. Confused enemies make mistakes. Keep monitoring their communications and let me know when they make their decision. Engineer Nam Ho-young's mobile workshops continued producing new weapons during the campaign. His latest creation was a device that could shut down Vorthon ship systems without destroying them. This allowed human forces to capture enemy vessels and their crews for intelligence gathering. We're learning everything about their technology and tactics, he reported. Soon we'll know their capabilities better than they do. The captured Vorthon officers provided valuable information under questioning. Many of them were eager to cooperate, hoping that cooperation might save their lives. They revealed fleet positions, defensive plans, and political divisions within the Dominion leadership. Corporal Park Min-ho had seen combat for the first time during the assault on Firebase Kether. His destroyer had been part of the force that eliminated the heavily fortified position. The battle had been brief but intense. The Vorthons fought hard, he told his squad mates afterward, but their weapons couldn't penetrate our armor, and our shots went through their shields like they weren't there. It wasn't really a fair fight. That was the pattern throughout the campaign. Human technology, developed specifically to fight Vorthons, proved superior in every engagement. The aliens' weapons had been designed to fight species with different defensive capabilities. The psychological pressure was breaking the Vorthon military faster than the actual battles were. Desertion rates climbed as soldiers abandoned their posts rather than face the invisible human ships. Supply lines collapsed as transport crews refused to enter contested space. Supreme Commander Vethrock called another emergency meeting. This time, his tone was very different from the confident arrogance he had shown before. The human fleet is destroying our forces faster than we can replace them, he admitted to his officers. Our colonies are surrendering without orders. Our own soldiers are abandoning their duties. Fleet Commander Thekvar, who had started this war by destroying New Seoul, now looked older and more tired. The humans are not fighting the way we expected. They strike everywhere at once. Our traditional Chu tactics are useless against them. The Vorthon leaders faced a terrible choice. They could gather their remaining forces for a final desperate battle, or they could try to negotiate peace with an enemy they had underestimated completely. We need to bring our entire Grand Armada together, Vethrock decided. All ships, all forces defending our home system. If we're going to die, we'll die fighting. Dr. Shin Yunji intercepted this communication and immediately understood its importance. The Vorthons were going to make their last stand at their capital world. This was exactly what Admiral Kim Tae-sung had been hoping for. Sir, she reported, enemy forces are withdrawing from all frontier positions. They're concentrating everything around Vorthak Prime. This is our chance to end the war with one decisive battle. The Admiral gave orders for the entire human fleet to converge on the Vorthan home system. The space around Vorthak Prime looked like a fortress built among the stars. Thousands of defensive platforms circled the planet in layers. Minefields stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. The entire Vorthon Grand Armada had gathered here for their final stand. Fleet Commander Thekvar stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Dominator. Around him, 30,000 Vorthon warships waited in perfect battle formations. These were the survivors of a military that had once controlled dozens of star systems. Now they were preparing to fight for their very existence. Human fleet detected. At the edge of the system, his sensor officer reported. Numbers are impossible to count accurately. They fill space from one side of our sensors to the other. Thekvar nodded grimly. He had started this war by destroying New Seoul. He had expected the humans to beg for peace or perhaps send a few ships to attempt revenge. Instead, they had brought a force larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kim Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the UES Seoul's Fury, watching the Vorthon defensive positions through his ship's advanced sensors. His 500,000 ships were arranged in a formation so large it took light several minutes to travel from one end to the other. All wings report ready for combat, Commander Bei Sujin announced from her stealth destroyer. Her invisible ships were already moving into position around the enemy fleet. Heavy assault wing standing by, Captain Oh Min-soo reported from the UES Vengeance. His massive battleships and cruisers formed the center of the human formation, their weapons charged and ready. The Admiral opened communication channels to every ship in his fleet. When he spoke, his voice reached nearly 10 million human crew members who had traveled across the galaxy for this moment. Today we end the war that began with the murder of innocent colonists, he said. The aliens who destroyed New Sol are waiting ahead of us. They think their numbers and their fortress will protect them. They are wrong. He paused, looking out at the enemy formations that blocked their path to the planet below. We fight not for conquest or glory, but for justice. We fight so that no other human colony will suffer what New Sol suffered. When this battle ends, the galaxy will know that humanity protects its own. The battle began not with massive explosions, but with silence. Commander Bei Sujin's stealth wing struck first, their invisible ships appearing suddenly among the outer ring of Vorthan defenses. Quantum torpedoes and plasma beams lanced out, destroying defensive platforms before the aliens could react. First, defensive ring is down, Bei Sujin reported. Stealth wing proceeding to secondary targets. The Vorthans tried to respond, but they were fighting shadows. Their sensors couldn't detect the human stealth ships until it was too late. One by one, their carefully planned defensive positions exploded into expanding clouds of debris. Thekvar watched in horror as his outer defenses collapsed. All ships advance to contact, he ordered. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see. Close the distance and engage. The Vorthan fleet began moving forward, trying to get close enough to the human ships to bring their weapons to bear. It was exactly what Admiral Kim Tae-sung had been waiting for. Heavy assault wing, commence bombardment, he ordered. Captain Oh Min-soo's battleships opened fire with weapons that had been designed specifically to destroy Vorthan vessels. The new plasma cannons created beams of energy hot enough to melt through any known armor. Quantum torpedoes curved around defensive shields and struck their targets from impossible angles. The first volley from the human heavy ships destroyed over 300 Vorthan vessels. The aliens' return fire barely scratched the advanced human armor. Their shields are useless, Engineer Nam Ho-young reported from his command ship. Our weapons are cutting through their defenses like they're not even there. The battle that the Vorthans had hoped would save their civilization instead became a demonstration of human technological superiority. Every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical plan the aliens had developed proved inadequate against Earth's war machine. Corporal Park Min-ho fired his ship's main gun at a Vorthan cruiser that was trying to break through their formation. The plasma beam struck the alien ship's hull and burned straight through from bow to stern. The cruiser broke apart and exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Direct hit," he shouted to his crewmates. "Another one down." Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human ships systematically destroyed their enemies. The technological advantage was so great that the battle became more like target practice than combat between equals. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji monitored Vorthan communications during the fighting. The messages she intercepted showed complete panic among the alien crews. "Their discipline is breaking," she reported to Admiral Kim Tae-sung. "Ship captains are disobeying orders and trying to retreat. Some are asking for permission to surrender." The psychological warfare campaign had worked perfectly. The Vorthan military, which had seemed so powerful when attacking defenseless colonists, crumbled when faced with superior force and technology. Lieutenant Yoon Sang-ho detected something important on his sensors. "Sir, I'm tracking the enemy flagship. It's the ship that led the attack on New Sol." Admiral Kim Tae-sung's eyes hardened. "Mark that target. I want Thekvar taken alive if possible. He has crimes to answer for." The UES Sol's fury moved through the battle like an unstoppable force. Smaller human ships cleared a path while the flagship's massive guns targeted the Vorthan command vessel. The Dominator was a huge ship, larger than most human vessels, but it was no match for Earth's most advanced warship. Thekvar watched his fleet dying around him and knew the battle was lost. His 30,000 ships were being destroyed by an enemy that seemed to have an answer for everything. The humans fought with cold efficiency, eliminating threats without waste or mercy. "Fleet Commander," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from over half our remaining ships. They're asking permission to lay down arms." The proud Vorthon commander, who had boasted about destroying human colonies, now faced the collapse of his entire civilization. His choices were surrender or total annihilation. "Open a channel to the human flagship," he ordered reluctantly. Admiral Kim Tae-sung received the transmission on his bridge. The alien who appeared on his screen looked older and more tired than the confident warrior who had attacked New Sol. "I am Fleet Commander Thekvar of the Vorthon Dominion," the alien said. I request terms for surrender." The admiral's voice was cold as space itself. "You murdered millions of innocent civilians without warning or mercy. You destroyed homes, schools, hospitals, and families. What terms did you offer the people of New Sol?" Thekvar had no answer. The colonists he had killed had been given no chance to surrender, no opportunity to evacuate. They had been exterminated like insects. "Your ships will power down weapons and engines immediately," Admiral Kim Tae-sung continued. "Any vessel that attempts to flee or fight will be destroyed. You and your officers will be taken into custody to face justice for war crimes." The surrender was broadcast throughout both fleets. Vorthon ships began shutting down their weapons and sending messages of submission. The battle that had lasted only 4 hours was over, but the war's consequences would last for generations. President Park Ji-woo received the victory report in her office on Earth. The woman who had authorized humanity's greatest military operation felt both satisfaction and sadness. Justice had been done, but at a cost that went far beyond the resources spent on ships and weapons. "The Vorthon military is completely destroyed," Admiral Kim Tae-sung reported. "Their fleet has surrendered. Their home world is under our control. The threat to human colonies has been eliminated." The aftermath of the battle was as carefully planned as the fighting had been. Human ships secured Vorthak Prime and other Vorthon worlds. Military installations were dismantled, but civilian populations were protected and treated according to galactic law. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji worked with Vorthon leaders to establish a new government that would focus on peaceful development rather than military expansion. The dominion that had terrorized other species was dissolved and replaced with a federation dedicated to cooperation and trade. "The galaxy is watching what we do next," she told the admiral. "How we treat our defeated enemies will determine whether other species see us as liberators or conquerors." Engineer Nam Ho-young's teams began the massive task of rebuilding Vorthon infrastructure for peaceful purposes. Military factories were converted to produce civilian goods. Weapons research facilities became centers for medical and agricultural development. The war reparations were substantial but fair. Vorthon resources would rebuild New Sol 10 times over, creating a memorial to the innocent victims and a symbol of humanity's determination to protect its people. Captain Bae Soo-jin led the first human ships to return home, carrying news of victory to Earth and the other colonies. The massive fleet that had crossed the galaxy for vengeance now began its journey back to human space. But not all the ships returned. Admiral Kim Tae-sung established permanent bases in former Vorthon territory. The lesson of New Sol would not be forgotten. Humanity would maintain the strength necessary to protect its colonies and deter future attacks.